We all know that romantic relationships are supposed to bring us joy, fulfillment, and a sense of belonging. But the uncomfortable truth is that far too many of us are drawn to partners that systematically undermine our self-worth and sense of control. This is not just a case of poor taste in partners, but rather a manifestation of a deeper pattern of emotional dependence, where we seek validation and love through others at the expense of our own autonomy and emotional intelligence. I've seen this pattern play out in my own life, in the relationships of my friends and family, and in countless client sessions, the classic dance of love and control, where we idealize and elevate our partner to an impossible standard, only to be repeatedly let down and left feeling empty and unsatisfied. In this video, I want to take you on a journey of discovery, exploring the hidden patterns and dynamics at play in our romantic relationships, and reveal the unspoken truths that people rarely say out loud about love, intimacy, and the darker corners of the human heart. When we get caught up in the romantic relationship hype, it's easy to forget that beneath the surface of grand gestures and declarations of undying love, what drives us is ultimately a primal need for validation and reassurance that we're not unlovable, and our worth as individuals is not entirely dependent on the acceptance of another person. Our attraction to someone often stems from a desire to complete ourselves, rather than an honest acknowledgement of our own wholeness. It's an unspoken, unconscious attempt to fill in the existential holes within, by merging our identities with another's, thereby momentarily alleviating the disquieting awareness of our own inherent isolation. Romantic relationships are power struggles masquerading as love stories, with each partner vying for control through manipulative patterns based on guilt, obligation, and conditional love. They walk a tightrope of power dynamics, constantly negotiating the boundaries of their emotional dependence and the other's need for dominance. We often sabotage our own potential in relationships because the need to be loved and accepted overpowers our need to love and accept ourselves. Our deep-seated insecurities masquerade as confidence, as we use our partner's validation to temporarily shield ourselves from the crippling fear of being alone. People in long-term relationships often get more invested in maintaining the illusion of love than actually working through their underlying emotional wounds. And it's not just about them. The fear of losing the facade of a happily ever after drives people to suppress their true selves for the sake of another's happiness, leading to an inevitable and painful stagnation. Ultimately, the self-deception that fuels our romantic pursuits is rooted in the desperate human need for a sense of belonging. But this pursuit comes at a steep price: the sacrifice of our autonomy, our authenticity, and our capacity to confront our innermost fears and insecurities. As we delve into the complex web of romantic relationships, it's easy to get lost in the idealized fairy tales. But beneath the surface lies a raw desire for validation and a fundamental need to feel seen by another person, which can often be exploited by those who crave control. The irony is that people often pretend to want independence in relationships, but in reality, they are desperately seeking emotional anchors to stabilize their internal turmoil and fill the void left by their own self-doubt. You'd be surprised how quickly people's egos and insecurities can be exposed in the heat of the moment, revealing the hidden dynamics of dominance and submission that often govern these relationships. At its core, attraction is rarely about finding the perfect mate, but rather about finding someone who can temporarily alleviate our deep-seated fears and insecurities, at least until the honeymoon phase wears off. We often self-deceive ourselves into thinking that our partner has the power to complete us, but the truth is we're either trying to fix them in an attempt to fix ourselves or unconsciously mirroring our unresolved traumas in them. When we're struggling to form meaningful connections with others, we may unintentionally create patterns of emotional dependence, seeking comfort in the familiar patterns of codependency, which in turn fuels the cycle of fear, rejection, and self-doubt that we desperately try to outrun. When we're drawn to someone, it's not always about love, but about a deep-seated need to validate our own worth, a desperate cry for reassurance, often masquerading as romance. Our patterns of self-sabotage in relationships are less about protecting ourselves from pain, and more about shielding ourselves from the very real possibility of being loved more than we love ourselves. The pursuit of love, in reality, is not about the other person, but about securing a sense of control and stability in an inherently unpredictable world, a desperate bid to tame the unknown. We often say we crave intimacy, but what we really crave is the feeling of being seen and accepted for who we truly are, and that requires a level of emotional vulnerability that can be terrifying to confront. Our romantic entanglements are often a manifestation of our own unfinished business, a desperate attempt to relive past traumas or rewrite the narratives of our lives, rather than truly engaging with our present circumstances. And so we self-sabotage, because it's always easier to pull the emotional rug from under someone else than it is to confront the painful truths about our own insecurities and vulnerabilities. Here are 6 potential spoken sentences for the section. The deception of emotional intimacy, recognizing the blurred lines between love and codependency. When we're drawn to someone, we instinctively look for validation in their eyes, a reflection of our worthiness, and this is where the thin line between love and codependency starts to blur. People may claim they want an equal partnership, but the truth is, many are driven by a desire to stabilize their own insecurities, to be seen as worthy and loved, at any cost. We often romanticize emotional intimacy, but what we actually crave is control, to feel secure in the knowledge that the other person will always be there to fill our emotional voids. The fear of abandonment drives us to create intense, all-consuming relationships, because the prospect of being alone is more terrifying than the risk of losing ourselves in someone else. When we're struggling with our own sense of self-worth, we're more likely to attract partners who will feed our ego, to bolster our self-esteem, even if it means sacrificing our own needs and desires in the process. The line between love and codependency is only visible when we're willing to confront our own insecurities, our deepest fears of inadequacy, and our most primal needs for validation and control. When we enter into a romantic relationship, we tend to believe we're seeking connection and love, but it's more often about seeking validation and reassurance that we're worthy of love. We frequently confuse emotional dependence with intimacy, and in doing so, we sacrifice our autonomy for the illusion of safety and security, often at the expense of our own agency and identity. Power dynamics are always present in relationships, and what we think is love is often a covert attempt to gain control and influence over another person, often unconsciously rooted in our own deep-seated insecurities and fears of abandonment. The desire for love can be a veiled attempt to heal our childhood wounds and gain the love and acceptance we felt we lacked growing up, which can lead to a self-perpetuating cycle of codependency and self-sabotage. Our attractions to others are often as much about seeking a reflection of our own lost or fragmented parts as they are about desiring the other person. And this underlying craving for wholeness can blind us to the realities of our partner's flaws and imperfections. Behind the facade of romance and mutual support, many relationships are actually battlegrounds for control, where partners subtly manipulate and use guilt to keep the other person in a state of emotional subjugation, perpetuating a cycle of fear and compliance rather than love and authenticity. Thank you for watching this video and embarking on a deeper exploration of the complexities of romantic relationships. As we've uncovered some of the hidden patterns that can both nourish and suffocate us, I encourage you to pause, reflect, and share your observations in the comments below. If you'd like to continue unraveling the mysteries of the human psyche, be sure to like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content on human psychology.